Hello, I'm Citrus, and you're looking at the AMK PRO Series Evangelion Test Type 01. Yolopark just sent this to me. Last year around this time, I reviewed their regular AMK Series Evangelion figures, and even though I gave it a pretty tepid review, I guess they were satisfied enough with how much attention that it drove towards their products, so they sent me this one. Once again, this is a 20 centimeter non-scale model kit that they call it, but really it's just an action figure that's slightly disassembled. You can see the relatively simple parts breakdown on the back of the box, along with the accessories, the hands posing, some warnings. It looks like the new display base is going to be green, more detailed than before. Under the front flap, we can see the clamshell with all the parts in it. On this side, I believe all the green parts are where the die-cast pieces are supposed to be. And up here, some photos of the features. The green is supposed to be UV sensitive this time. Alright, so let's get this open. Inside we have 3 layers, starting with the upper one first, the main body. I'm glad they took my suggestion, or well, perhaps other reviewers have also mentioned the same, but they removed the plastic pins that were holding the 2 halves of clamshell together, and now it's just 2 pieces, so much easier to open than before. Yay! Looks like we get 3 spare antennas this time, and an extra head. New accessories being the Gatling gun and the Lance of Longinus, which proportionally looks a little bit short to me because this figure is larger than the Kotobukyo model kit, but this lance is definitely smaller. Umbilical cable looks about the same as before. And the new carrier seems to be a bit larger than before. The bottom definitely is thinner than I remember. And a customer support sheet. And our instructions, which is pretty trivial, but the entire parts list here is pretty nice to have, just to make sure you're not missing anything out of your package. Yeah, pretty much exactly the same as last time. Okay, let's assemble it. So here's the completed AMK Pro Evangelion next to the metal build from Bandai. And I would show you it next to the original AMK, but I don't have those at hand at the moment. But there's really not much to see because the sculpt on the outside, as far as I can tell, is exactly the same. But there are quite a few improvements. So for one, there is the metallic purple all over the entire body, which looks really nice. Paintwork in general this time around seems much cleaner than it was before, which I'm very, very happy about. And another huge thing is the smoothness of the joints. Most places are now much, much easier to work with, especially like the knees and stuff, ankles. The elbows were never really much of a problem before. But like the waist joints here, you can see work just fine. And at least on my example, they're not popping out like they did before. Of course, putting it together did require a lot of force, and that was still a little bit scary. And especially the little ball joint in the head, that was also really tight. But joint strength overall is pretty good. Nothing's too wobbly. The mouth still opens as it does before, although because of all the extra paint this time, it is a little bit harder to make everything move. And fortunately, they fixed the coloring issue. You can see now the jaw is the same color of metal as the back of the head, the chest, instead of being that weird purple color that it was before. And another improvement is the antenna, which holds onto the head much better than it did before. Maybe they overcorrected a little bit because I kind of had to wiggle its way into the head. So that was a little scary. So use a delicate hand when you're putting that in. Otherwise, you might break it just while trying to put it in. But of course, there are still a few problems from before that were carried over to this new version. The elbow design is still weird, so they can definitely still do that, which isn't great. And some joints are still a little bit creaky. But, not nearly as bad as it was before. And also the hip joints seem to hold on a bit better than they used to, at least when they're properly seated anyway. So you don't have to really worry about them just kind of falling off as you're handling the figure now. One QC problem on my example at least are the toe joints, which don't work. They're still separate pieces as they were before, but they are completely stuck. They never did that much to begin with, so I'm not going to force them just in case doing that will break them. So one of the big selling points of the figure is die cast. You can definitely feel more weight in the figure in your hand. It doesn't feel as light as it used to, but most of what you're touching on the outside is still mostly plastic. One of the easiest parts to see as die cast is just this back piece here. And yeah, you can see the purple part and I think the gray part on top are still plastic. So it's just a black piece down here. There's also some die cast inside of the shoulder joint. And I think maybe the knees. I'm not really 100% sure on that. But these, the gray parts on the chest, those are die cast. So not a lot, but it does add just enough to make the figure feel much more substantial. And of course the black and green parts are unpainted, bare plastic, but the green is now UV sensitive. Is that the word to use? If you put it under a black light, they kind of glow, which has always kind of been a gimmick to me, but it is pretty cool that at least it does that. Now onto the accessories. The display base is exactly the same as before, except now it's green with some painted on details. Same problem as before, where it's kind of hard to open once you close it. So you can still put all the accessories in here, just it's going to be a little tricky to get them out. The second head comes with only one eye painted. The other side also has a little bit of damage on the head to simulate the EVA-01 after its first battle with an angel. The effect is really subtle, but it is a neat inclusion. Still included, of course, is the kind of useless entry plug, which can't be held in the hands or really stuck anywhere else on the body, so it's just a little freebie, I guess. And the same optional hands. Got your slayed hand, your holding things hand, and the closed fists. Same great sculpt as before. Although the palms and stuff are not painted the same metallic purple, so that's it's not a huge deal, especially because you'll be bending them a little bit to put the accessories inside, but still good. And a pair of knives, painted really well this time. Can't complain at all. And the pallet rifle, also completely painted this time. You can see the finish is a little bit lumpy in some places. Yeah, not a huge complaint, but just pointing it out for you guys. And the first of our new accessories, which is the Lance of Longinus. The rod in the middle is metal, which is huge. A lot of these, they have a plastic connection between the top and the bottom halves of the rod if they don't come in one piece. And putting them together is usually kind of a terrifying ordeal because of that, because you're always worried that's going to break. And obviously, if the figure takes a tumble from somewhere high up, if there's only one little thin bit of plastic connecting the top and bottoms, well, that becomes a very easy breakage point. Although, saying that, I am having quite a bit of difficulty shoving this all the way down, and there's not exactly a good place for you to put your hand up here to apply pressure to push it down, so I'll have to figure something out off screen if I intend to use this. But another nice thing is, look at that. The 2 points are parallel to each other. At least with the Kotobukiya one, there was a little bit of a twist going on, so the 2 points weren't perfectly straight. So pretty happy with that. Well, once I can put this whole thing together, of course. And lastly, we have the Gatling gun, which comes in 3 pieces. And just twist it in there. This way? Maybe that's it? Yeah. The metallic finish looks pretty good, but it is just one color. I think it would have been nice if they picked out a couple of these dots or something along the body to make it just a little bit more interesting to look at. But it's pretty nice. Shiny, not shiny, so at least you have that little bit of contrast going on. And lastly, just as before, a wire umbilical cable for you to stick into the base as you like. So with all of the improvements and extra accessories, this time the price has gone up from $30 to $45. That's the new retail price, which is obviously kind of a big jump. 50% is a lot, but I feel like this is what the figure really should have been in the beginning. Compared to a lot of other offerings, especially in this size, it is still quite affordable, but the quality is so much higher than before. The fact that you can quite reasonably put this together out of the box without fear of breaking it is already a huge step forward. So I'm very happy that this time I can end with a much more positive recommendation. Again, this is a large, fairly affordable, great looking action figure of the EVA-01. And I would love to see Yolopark take this iteration of the figure and go further to bring out the EVA-00, 02, and possibly a couple of other variations. Hopefully they can also get licenses to make the TV versions, because that is something that is sorely lacking in the EVA products marketplace in general. And I'm sure there are plenty of people, me included, who would definitely be very interested in those products. And right now, until the end of the month, if you'd like to pick up one of these for yourself, Yolopark is doing a Christmas promotion. You can use the coupon code on the website to save a little bit of money. And of course, if you're watching this after December 30, which is when the coupon expires, you can use my code, Citrus, to save 5% on your entire order from Yolopark. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.